Today, an extremely peculiar Bitcoin transaction circulated on social media. A participant within the Bitcoin network paid over 83 BTC, equivalent to roughly $3.1 million in fees for a transaction valued at about 57 BTC, remaining total. According to Mempool, Space's recommended fee rates, the effective fee paid was more than 500,000 times higher than what would have been necessary. This transaction now holds the record for the highest transaction fee in USD at the time of confirmation. The identity behind this and how this obvious mishap occurred is still unknown. Nevertheless, we'd like to provide a brief analysis of the situation. It's highly improbable that someone consciously chose such an astronomical fee rate of 75 million sat/VB. Additionally, the occasional conversion error between virtual bytes and kilobytes can be ruled out here, since even 75 million sat/VKB, which equals 75,000 sat/VB, would have been significantly overpaid. This mishap is likely rooted in some form of software or implementation error. What's noticeable about the transaction is the absence of change, which is crucial when manually manipulating raw transactions. The transaction spends approximately 139 BTC in total, but only creates a single recipient with a value of 56 BTC. The difference between inputs and outputs, in this case 83 BTC, remains undefined, and thus constitutes the transaction fee claimable by the miners. Something similar occurred a few weeks ago with a transaction from payment processor PayPal, when an unintended transaction fee of almost 20 BTC ended up with the F2 pool miners. F2 pool, as an act of goodwill, returned the sum, which, although significant for a major mining pool, was handled graciously. How Ant Pool, the fortunate receiver of the 83 BTC, will handle this situation remains to be seen. Interestingly, the mentioned transaction utilizes the replace by fee (RBF) function. Transactions with the initially low fee rate can be expedited by subsequently increasing the fee using RBF. Often, RBF is portrayed as enabling the cancellation of transactions. However, the phrasing here can be misleading because technically, you can't truly cancel a valid Bitcoin transaction. What's possible instead is to replace the transaction with a higher fee and simultaneously change the recipient to oneself, effectively canceling the original payment. Nevertheless, the new RBF transaction technically still occurs. A plausible explanation is that the currently unidentified creator panicked, which, considering the substantial sums involved, is more than understandable. Regardless of how the error occurred, the initial instinct was, naturally, to undo everything. And with RBF, one can cancel transactions, right? This misconception, as we've just explained, led to the original transaction, which would have paid only a mere 70 BTC in fees, being replaced with an even higher fee of 83 BTC. Although the payment, now reduced to the aforementioned 57 BTC, was redirected to a different address, potentially indeed cancelled, the initially high fee was still paid. A costly mistake followed by an even more expensive misconception. However, it's also plausible that the original address, where 140 BTC were deposited in the same block, might have already been compromised, simplistically speaking, controlled by hackers. This could explain why the initial transaction, despite the extreme fee and a disabled RBF flag, was replaced. It might involve multiple attackers trying to push through their own transaction. Such attacks are often automated using bots rather than manually created. Time is of the essence in such scenarios. This could also explain the high fee. Automated transactions of this nature might be optimized to avoid being consistently outbid by others. In essence, a percentage-based fee might have been universally set, statistically ensuring a high probability of success, leading to a disproportionately high fee in absolute terms due to the initial context with 140 BTC. However, this remains a theory at this point. Users of a regular Bitcoin wallet, whether it's a software wallet on a smartphone or a secure hardware wallet, typically shouldn't worry about such errors. Of course, especially during high demand on the Bitcoin network, it's essential to be informed about the currently recommended fee rates to avoid overpaying or underpaying the miners. However, Excessively high fee rates, like the ones we witnessed today, are usually intercepted by a good wallet before the transaction is broadcasted. Also, the correct return of change is automatically managed in the background as a standard feature.